so good, I must say. Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 2 of NaNoWriMo 2021. I don't know about you, but I haven't done a whole lot. So if you are feeling mildly stressed and overwhelmed because you haven't done very much in terms of your nano, have no fear. I am in the same boat with you. So this is what we are going to be doing for this stream is writing sprints. So we're going to try and get some words on paper and yeah, we're going to make it happen, guys. We're going to make it happen. So I'm super excited. We have Zara and Kyra Dawkins joining us tonight. Emily, our other resident fiction author, will be joining us here in a little bit, and we look forward to having her. So to kind of start off with, last week we officially started Nano. We did some writing sprints, and then honestly, from on my end of things, it just went and just went downhill so fast. And I basically haven't written anything since Friday when I did a live stream on my Instagram.
Oh,
so,
no.
Yeah. But I managed to get 60 words down in one of those sprints. So that was good. Making progress here. Okay. So anyway, guys, that's enough of, you don't want to hear my complaining. We're going to dive into the good stuff. And as always, if you have questions, the chat is open. So feel free to drop it in there. We're going to ask for updates later on how you guys are doing. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in there. But let's go ahead and get to the meaty goodness so that way we can dive into our writing sprints. So first up, question is going to go to Kyra. How does your technique of writing a scene by hand help you shape the chapter it pertains to?
That is an excellent question. I mean, part of the reason why I write a scene by hand is because I've just accepted that something about the way my brain is wired is that I literally can't start a scene by typing it. I don't know what it's about, but there's just something that feels much more organic to me about channeling a story through my pen. I don't know. It just feels much more corporeal, for lack of a better word. But ultimately, I think it really helps because when you handwrite something, I have a tendency to use pen. It forces me to not erase things because a backspace is really easy to press, but a pen is very difficult to erase. And even if I decide to edit or move things around, I can keep track of where things were. So if I were to cross something out in one place and like draw an arrow for it to go somewhere else, it kind of gives me a more robust record or where things have been, so I can understand the structure of the thing that is forming as it evolves. Now, of course, do I recommend writing by hand absolutely everything? Well, not necessarily. It ultimately depends on your writing style, and it depends on whether or not you can type to think, or vice versa. But I definitely think that it really helps me be cognizant of the fact that this is a messy process. I think sometimes the computer makes the process look a little too neat.
That's really good. And plus, there have been tons and tons of studies shown, which was dropped in the chat, that hand actually physically writing it out can increase the creativity and kind of work past some of those mental blocks. So super important to keep in mind, like you said, to be able to have the option there to do that, because it really does help. I started off writing all of my stuff by hand, and then I realized that I was never going to get anything done doing it that way. And so I trained myself on how to like type as the ideas were coming versus writing it out first and then doing it. But oof, That by far is a lot harder.
Oh my god.
All right, and then going to Zara, 50,000 words in 30 days.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be an episodic writer?
Yeah. Well, I oh god. Well, I wish the term was derivative of something positive, but unfortunately it's not. So you know how people say about epileptics and mentally ill and mentally challenged, oh, they had another episode. So the term comes from that, unfortunately. When something happens abruptly and there's a lot happening in the real time in which we are experiencing it. Ooh, words are hard. So that's what it pertains to. And because writers are not aware of this term, they get freaked out when they physically and mentally can write every day, like Stephen King preaches. It can be easily mistaken for a writer's block, but it's not. And it doesn't mean if you are an episodic writer, that you are at a disadvantage when compared to those who write every day. Because you absolutely can and absolutely will catch up with your writing once you get into the writing rhythm. There is no way to tell when or how. You will just feel it and you will start writing and you will write 5,000 words in one day like it's nothing. I remember an author that we published. I'm sure Stephen and Kyra, I remember, can recall too. She wrote her book, the first draft, in 1 week, an extreme case of an episodic writer. And another author that we published was kind of lagging behind, and he wrote 30,000 words in 3 days. So, great example of an episodic writer. I am one too. I had 12 chapters of a 33 chapter book written 2 weeks before the submission deadline, and I did it. I submitted on time, and I'm on track to publish Sunset in La Paz in May 2022. So, get in, losers. We're going to do NaNoWriMo.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Love it. And Emily Vanderban has joined the crew, and so we are now all ready to go. And honestly, we were just stalling for time so that way she could join us because she's awesome.
Aw.
So
Thanks, guys.
all right, guys. So per the usual, we are going to be setting a 15-minute timer, and we're going to be diving into our very first writing sprint.
Woo!
So I'm very excited to get into this. I actually decided to not work on my short story today because, as Zara said, words are hard, and writing people who are in the predicament that they're in, that I put them in, that I thought that was a great idea, was dumb. And so now I have to figure out a way to work around it. I'm going to be working on book 2 of my fantasy series because it makes more sense. And plus,
And where are you guys writing? Kyra, what are you working on tonight?
I'm working on a Zara Blaze, although if I feel like I'm at a wall, I might just pontificate on a blog post that I've been procrastinating.
Emily?
I am working on the first book in a new high fantasy-esque series.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's get into it.
All right, guys. We have 15 minutes. Not to be competitive, but I'm going to try and beat 60 words. So let's see if anybody can try to beat that milestone record there in these 15 minutes. God. All right, guys, on your mark, get set, go. Oh, yeah. First round done. All right. Coaches and participants, what did you guys end up with? I am super curious to know.
I ended up with 161 words added to my epilogue. It's dragging like hell because epilogue is about forgiveness or lack thereof. And it's a tough subject to write about, so we'll see.
That is true. Forgiveness is not an easy topic. I'm trying to get this thing that okay. Oh, it did unshare. Okay. We're good. Anyway, continue on as usual. Oh, we got and 466
Wow.
words. Nice.
Nice.
Crushed it. Only beat me by, 406 words from my extremely high one from Friday. Nicely
Woo!
done. Nicely
Go
done.
on, dude. Way to go.
I have to say I did beat my record from from Friday and ended at 245.
Good.
There you go.
I have two of my shifters hunting down unscrupulous people in Exfos and stopping for a snack, and one of the characters is really salty about it.
Mm.
It's the joys. It's the little things. Emily, Kyra, how about for you?
I have 68 words.
Yes.
68 more words than I had before.
Exactly. Plus, it's a new thing, right? It's like a
Yeah.
whole new story idea.
Whole new
So,
story,
like,
whole new world.
yeah, the joys of world building.
I'm sorry.
And cue Kyra's Disney reference.
It had to be done.
I can't with you guys. You're just too much.
Well, I don't have a word count because, old lady in writing. But I was able to make some progress, and my main character realizes that it's okay for her to dance despite her awkwardness. It'll be a
Mm.
part of her healing journey.
Is that did you just
Interesting.
write a happy moment, Kyra?
I know.
What's wrong with you?
With a little bit of sadness, but happy mostly.
Man, Kyra's feeling good tonight, y'all.
I
Like she wrote a
know.
happy scene.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I was shocked.
she's
as well.
looking
Everything-
good, so she writing good. You know what I mean?
It's a happy scene and no one died.
Yeah, it's funny because I originally was planning on writing a scene at a funeral, but I just was not in the mood, so nothing happened.
That is hilarious.
I'm just not feeling a funeral right now. So you know what? It's gonna do something else.
Oh my god.
Good
That is
stuff.
hilarious.
All right. Well, we'll dive into our next set of questions here real quick before we go into another writing sprint.
Can I ask a question?
No.
I'm just really, really curious about what Andrew is writing, like a fiction book or nonfiction, because 466 words is like a lot.
That's true.
Yeah.
Andrew, we demand answers.
Andrew, if you're comfortable with sharing, drop in the chat what you're writing, because I'm impressed. And in the meantime, yes, going to your questions, whatever.
No, that was a good question because 466 words. I remember those days when I used to have them. Oh, he's gonna type it out.
Oh my god!
The anticipation. Oh man.
All right.
Yeah. Top that I've ever done in an hour is like 1,300 words, and that was for my how to write fan fiction that doesn't suck. I knew exactly what I was going to do there, and I have a fantastic little GIF of the Three Stooges from Twilight. Was it Jacob, Edward, and Bella? And they're all like driving in a car. It's pretty fantastic. Anyway, I just had to throw that out there for reference. Emily, question for you. LSD, not the drug, just to be specific. YouTube, don't take us down. Lurking syndrome of depletion. What do you do to keep your writing instrument, your mind, sharp under pressure?
That's a great question. And the first part is know how you write well and get that setting in place. As you can tell from my 68 words, I don't work well against a timer. So I do not do writing sprints. I sit down for a couple hours back to back, and that is how I write. So figure out what works for you. If you are doing a writing sprint, do not watch the clock tick down. Have that completely separate and focus only on what you're writing. If you do word count goals for the day, kind of a similar mindset. I actually sticky note my computer so I can't see what my word count is as I'm writing. Otherwise, you're going to be more focused on, am I to my 1,000 words a day or whatever your goal is, rather than am I writing content that is actually good and solid and works toward what I'm hoping to do with my book. And sometimes, honestly, you just need to step away for a little bit. I know you don't necessarily have that luxury right now during Nano, but as much as you can after Nano, if you need that break and that just a couple hours or a day or a week or whatever that looks like away from actually writing, allow yourself the permission to do that. That doesn't necessarily mean completely cut yourself off from what you're doing. It could, if maybe you just need kind of that mental break. But what I try to do is I'll take like a day break every so often. But no matter what, if I'm not writing, I'm still trying to do something writing related to keep myself in that world and keep my mind still on the story itself. So this could be anything from I'll like pull up my character bios and see if there's anything I need to tweak or work on. Maybe I'll do some world building. Maybe I deal with history a lot, so maybe I'll read a little bit more on like the context of that world or that past time that I'm dealing with. Or I'll just read another book in general, completely unrelated to what I'm working on. I'm interesting in the fact that if I'm writing, I try to stay away from, I'll say if I'm drafting, that's better. If I'm drafting kind of that first draft of whatever I'm working on, I try to stay away from books really, really similar to the genre that I'm writing in, because I don't really necessarily want other stories to directly influence what I'm writing. Yeah, that's going to kind of naturally come through based on the different things that I've read or watched and whatnot. But I try to keep like those influences away from my first draft, because that's kind of the raw piece of the story itself. But then as I move in a little bit more to like different rounds of revisions, I'll let myself kind of creep back into those fantasy or history related bits of reading. And then when I get to like revisions themselves, where it's more about like the editing and the technicalities of like word choice and everything like that, then I actually like go back and stop reading those again, and I'll read poetry instead. And it's just like poetry for a straight month. So I don't know if anyone else finds themselves in these like weird cycles of what they're reading, depending on like what stage of the process they're in writing. But that's kind of how I operate. But like within all that, that kind of goes back to like know how you operate as a writer and how best to set yourself up for success. And never shirk like the self-care element of that. Self-care for me is like a huge part of my writing process. It could be anything from I'll like, if I meet a little milestone, maybe I'll go treat myself to like a cup of coffee, or if I hit a bigger milestone, maybe I'll like get that special edition Addie LaRue that I've been wanting, which just actually arrived today. Different things like that. But like self-care too is like, I know we spend as writers so much time sitting down, not moving, staring at a computer. Like self-care could be as simple as getting up and going for a 30-minute walk, or as simple as you got to take a bath or a shower every day. Why not treat yourself and buy a little shower steamer or a bath bomb, or a face mask, or whatever that looks like. Like try to incorporate self-care in to your schedule as much as you can. It doesn't have to be anything that's like a complete outlier. It take a ton of time. But if you can incorporate it in and be purposeful about it, that too will help kind of just keep your body and your mind like fresh as well.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I think especially like at the end of Nano being like taking a break, like it's okay. Yeah. It's all right to do that. And the self-care aspect of it, and which I am absolutely horrible at. I would rather just like sit here in this little box all day long, and then be done rather than go and do something else. Yeah. Okay, Andrew has replied, and I must say, this sounds freaking amazing. A sci-fi novel about astroarchaeologists, and I can already see our resident museum nerd, Mackenzie Finkley.
Oh yeah,
being very intrigued by this. So, yeah, this sounds awesome, absolutely awesome. Plane crash from Lost. As long as you don't do what Lost did, I think you're golden.
Yeah, but what did they do really? Do we really know what they did? I'm still confused about that. So let's not get into Lost.
They probably are too. Let's not get lost in Lost. But I must say, yeah, it was. That's when you get lazy writing. Is when you're just like, and dream sequence. No, they did that. But yeah, seriously, Andrew, that sounds. Yes. We all are, Andrew. We all. It still haunts our waking nightmares.
So much so. Haunts my dreams. Exactly.
So much potential. That's why we're here, Andrew. That is why we are here.
Yeah.
DM us on social media as well. We would love to connect with fellow fiction writers. We're here for you. That's why we're called coaches.
Yep. We're all crazy. And I mean, anybody who's an author is slightly off. There's no one on purpose puts themselves through this if they're sane.
Slightly off.
Slightly off. Just a tad.
Oh my god.
Just read it.
What is wrong with you?
A lot. I'm slightly past slightly. Okay. So it'll be my turn. I'll try and do this quickly so we can jump into our next writing sprint. So how do you justify writing unlikable characters in your stories, and should writers avoid it? No, they should absolutely not avoid writing unlikable characters. I think the key to writing unlikable characters is you have to understand why they exist within your book. If they exist for the purpose of pissing off another character, that's justifiable. If it's just because you're like, oh, this is going to be fun, maybe not do that. Don't do that. Like, it should serve a purpose. When I think of writing an unlikable character, they still have to feel as fleshed out as the other characters, even if they're not. Like, I don't want it to just be a caricature of an unlikable character. Like, they are still a person, they still have their own personality, but you don't have to like them as the reader. Now, what gets tricky is when people make the unlikable character the main protagonists. That is when like it goes up a notch. For instance, you have to be very, very intentional about how you use that character and be very, very cognizant of how the reader, or you think the reader, is going to respond to the character making certain decisions. Now, if you're doing someone who's just kind of a scumbag, you have to understand that like nobody's going to like them. And that's okay. You don't have to try and make someone likable. Sometimes that just naturally develops for the readers, and they'll be like, this person is just the worst. They make bad decisions. They, do X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And it just frustrates the bejesus out of me because I would have done this. And in certain circumstances, that actually works to your benefit because they're then thinking of how they would do things differently, and they're investing more in the book. Basically, you're, as an author, you're like part author, part sociopath. I think, like you're trying to manipulate people's emotions to work for your benefit, when it boils down to it. So that would be my suggestion on unlikable characters, is that you should absolutely have them in your book as long as you are purposeful and intentional. And most of my answers are probably going to fall back to that. Be purposeful, be intentional, and understand reader expectations, how you can take those and twist those things, and ultimately like how people's brains work. Because if you can figure out how people's brains work, then you can figure out how to break their brains and make them emotionally dependent on you unless you sell more books. So that's my tidbits for you.
I have another question for you, Stephen. Are you okay? Are you sure you're okay?
No, I told you I'm slightly off, slightly.
Oh my God. What a manipulator. We all are.
It is 100%. It's the same thing when I talk about writing bingeable books, right? When you pace things appropriately, when you understand how long how long it takes the average reader to make it through a chapter, how you can add little mini cliffhangers on the end of those chapters to keep people going from
pages.
chapter. Yep, absolutely. And how that affects the brain with the dopamine release, and they feel great about themselves because like, oh, I finished a chapter. And then basically it's like full on like Borg assimilation. And then you're like, you're mine now. So, I mean, that's world domination strategy 101.
Yeah.
So just saying.
No, you're right. Yeah, we all manipulate our readers, but that's the part of the job, to make them feel good about themselves.
Absolutely.
To come
and what's
back
better
to our
is
work.
like once when they can fully acknowledge, be like, yeah, that's what you guys do to me, but you're my drug lord now, and so I need more.
Yeah.
And so, here's my wallet, and I'm like,
so the LSD acronym wasn't too far off, or is that what you're saying?
It wasn't too far off, no. So yeah, I love your acronyms. They're fantastic. All right, everybody, we are going to dive into writing sprint numero dos. So get thee ready, and I will pull this back up here on the screen. If you are like Emily, just put a sticky note over the timer and ignore the timer.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Let's see if we can beat our previous word records. On your mark, get set, go. All right. Another 15 minutes. And mild success, I have to say. All right, everybody. Drop the word count. Let's see it. How'd you guys do? What'd you guys do? Who wants to share first?
123.
Ooh, nice.
Nice. Nicely done.
I got 90.
Hey! All right, I think that's where I left off. I think. I ended up with 289.
Hey,
That's awesome.
nice.
I think. Pretty sure.
That's
Somewhere
great.
right around in there at least. I should separate it more when doing these things, so that way I can actually find where I left off. Otherwise, I'm just kind of guessing because I have the memory of a goldfish. So yeah, so that awesome stuff, guys. And then I think let's see, trying to get back the chat.
Andrew got 213. Yes.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Oh, yay. Woo.
Well, super glad to have you, Andrew, and look forward to having you back here again. If you'd like to do some more writing sprints, I am doing some on my Instagram channel. And so if you want to go down into the show notes, all of us coaches, we have our Instagram handles or links to our Instagrams down there. So you can follow us. And I'm going live on Fridays typically and doing sprints. So if you want to have more writing sprint shenanigans, feel free to join. I saw someone had dropped a question.
Kyra did.
Yes, she did. And I'm going to drop it in the chat and pull it up here because it is a very good question. All right. How do you cultivate a reader's satisfaction of being right without being predictable?
To provide a little bit of context for this question, I just remember, actually, this is a deep cut. During the Preptober live stream, I mentioned a book that first captured my imagination because of the title, The Goose Girl. I was 9-10 years old, right? So I recently reread that book this past weekend. And did I enjoy it? Yes. But also, 23-year-old Kyra could predict what was going to happen next much better than 9 to 10-year-old Kyra. So, like, I don't know if it was just because I remember the story from all that time ago or because you're used to seeing certain narrative patterns. You're like, yes, and this is going to happen. And that guy is going to be the prince. Of course. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I still enjoyed it, but I felt like the experience was demystified because of how predictable it ultimately was. I still recommend the book if you want to read a fairy tale. Still good. But you know what I'm saying? How do you not fall into that trap?
Yeah. Well, my philosophy on this one is, and I'm sure as we have all learned from Game of Thrones, if it doesn't make sense for the story narrative-wise, logically, don't do subversion of expectations unnecessarily. The way I do it, if I want to surprise readers, is to focus on the subplot and do a twist in a subplot rather than the main storyline.
That makes sense.
I would say, too, to kind of like build on what Simona was saying, is be intentional about the breadcrumbs that you drop along the way. And don't be afraid to drop appropriately misleading breadcrumbs. Try to find that balance. And part of that is just going to be getting to the end of that draft, if that's the stage that you're in, and going back and reading it all the way through again and trying to find those areas where you can properly like weave in those threads. But yeah, that would be my advice. And then also kind of like we talked about on another live stream about like tropes. I would say know the tropes that are popular for your genre and the books that are also popular in your genre, because chances are those popular ones a lot of your audience will have read. So if it's a trope related to that book or related to that popular series within that genre, you're going to want to make sure that you're not like leaning too far into something that's been done before without you adding like some sort of fresh twist to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think for me, because there have been so many books that I have read and they all typically will follow a similar pattern, it becomes very easy to predict what's going to take place. But for instance, like I just recently read Whispers in the Depths, and it's like a fantasy horror book. And it was interesting because some of the things I was like, oh, I wonder if could be what's happening here, because this doesn't quite make sense. And there was little breadcrumbs along the way. And by, I don't know, probably about halfway through, I ended up guessing to a certain point of what the actual thing was. And I wasn't mad about it, because of how it ended up being revealed. And I was actually super happy that my theory played out. And I think that's the difference, is that you should be kind of weaving in these other narratives that call into question whether it is the thing that you think it is. And then for those people who are like me, who want to try to figure it out, and we figure it out and you do it well, it's very, very satisfying from a reader perspective. Be like, man, I knew that before they did.
Yeah.
And then other times it's just like, yeah, that character should have saw that coming from like miles away. So, and that's actually one of the key things, is that while I was speculating what was going to take place, I only managed to put everything together maybe a chapter or two before the character did. So I wasn't left with half a book of like, this person is stupid. Like, how have they not figured this out? And another part of it was because there wasn't enough time for them to sit and ponder everything. That's the other thing too, is that if your character, either the reader's going to be the smart one or the character is going to be the smart one. And you have to figure out which one it's going to be. If the character is the smart one, the character is going to figure out, or should, in theory, figure it out before the majority of your readers do. And like just before. And then if it's the other way, you'll want your readers to feel super smart only like a chapter or two before. Otherwise, they're going 3/4 of the book or half of the book of going like, what is this person doing? Like, why are we following this person? They're obviously incompetent. Like, because I put this together in like 3 minutes. Like, that's what you want to avoid doing, I think.
I mean, admittedly, what I have a tendency to do is be like, hi, I'm just going to tell you the really, really devastating thing that's going to happen now. And treat it as a flashback, but then at some point in the book, you're like, "Oh wait, this wasn't the main plot." That's what I have a tendency to do. But like, that's not. I don't want to do that all of the time. I want for people to feel like they're having little victories instead of knowing what's going to happen and just finding the satisfaction in figuring out why something happened. So I really appreciate y'all's engagement with this question.
Yeah. That was a good one. All right, everybody. So just a kind of quick update for all y'all. Next Monday, we are going to be doing another NaNoWriting sprint. So please make sure to join us. If you haven't already, go down and subscribe and hit the bell notification icon. We have more fun content coming your way with future coffee chats. If you guys haven't seen the first coffee chat, go and check that out. It's about harnessing the power of your community, which is super, super good. And then we also are working on some standalone content for social media stuff to try and help you guys as authors take your social media game up to the next notch. So we got lots and lots of stuff coming your way. It's going to be super fun. If you have any questions, make sure to drop them down in the comments or connect with us on social media and shoot us a DM. We are more than happy as coaches to talk with you guys. So, and it's not, and we're not charging you for anything. It's like, this is just, you're just IMing us. Like back in the days of like AOL and like Messenger stuff like that. I'm dating myself a little bit, but I was born before Google was founded, guys. Cut me some slack. Jeez. We are happy to talk with you. So
Yes.
definitely feel free to reach out with to us. Until next time, guys, have a good day and happy